Hey, with your evening story channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it. Michael held his daughter's hand tightly. Today was their big day. Adriana had been preparing for it for the past week. She'd asked for her alarm clock to be set, and she'd get up quickly, run to wash her face and brush her teeth. Then she'd come into the kitchen and anxiously ask her father, "Dad, how are we not late?" Michael would kiss her on the top of the head and say, "No, honey, we're not late. You're doing great. You're doing everything very fast." Adriana sighed. Maybe when it was time to go to school, things wouldn't go so smoothly. Michael knew about her worries and supported her as best he could. If Adriana's mom were alive, she would probably be able to explain to her daughter that there was no need to worry so much. Adriana's mom died when she was only 2 years old. The doctors absolutely forbade her to give birth, but Betty didn't want to listen to anyone. She just raved about the baby. Michael, of course, also thought about a son or daughter, but for the sake of his wife's health was ready to meet old age only with her. Betty spent almost the entire pregnancy in the hospital, and when Michael accepted a small package from the hands of doctors, he could not help crying. His wife looked at him with a calm, wise look, as if she already knew that Adriana would be Michael's only relative. After the death of his wife, he could not recover for a long time. He did everything like a robot. Sometimes his colleagues from work visited him. It was like a breath of fresh air. When Adriana went to kindergarten, Michael began to wake up. He went to work, though part-time. Thanks to his bosses for that. Adriana often asked him, "Dad, why is our mom in heaven? Do the other girls' moms come to daycare to pick them up?" For a long time, Michael would translate the conversation. And when Adriana was 5, he sat down in front of her and said, "Sweetheart, our mommy is the best. She loved you very much. But mommy was sick. She was in pain, sick. Now she's up in the sky watching over us." Adriana thought for a long moment. Then she asked quietly, "Doesn't it hurt now?" "Not bad." "No, not right now. But she misses us very much and is happy when we make progress." "I will make lots of progress, honestly." Adriana wasn't fooled. She diligently learned the letters of the numbers. Then she diligently read with her finger on the big letters of the beautiful book. And Adriana also loved children who were not like herself. As soon as she saw a baby in a stroller, she smiled. Today was a special day for her daughter and him. They were going to school for the first time in the first grade. Michael was as worried as his daughter, especially about the bows. He shared his worries at work, and Kathy, a coworker who was sitting near him, offered to help. "Michael, it's my day off. Let me help you with your hair." He was embarrassed. "Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing to take you away from your work." "Nonsense. What's more important than a child being happy?" Actually, he'd known Kathy's side for him before, but he'd never taken it seriously. Kathy's young, beautiful, and he's a single father. What could they possibly have in common? And then he agreed to it. Agreed to have her come to them simply because he didn't see any other way. Adriana was immediately enamored of Kathy, and when she made her beautiful curls, decorated with white ribbons, she even clapped her hands. "Daddy, look how beautiful she is." Michael smiled, but he was thinking about something else. He was thinking that if there weren't so many obstacles. Kathy was very beautiful, such a quiet, homely beauty. Strange why he hadn't noticed it before. He only saw it when she was in his apartment. The girl noticed that he was looking at her intently and was immediately embarrassed. She scrambled, "I'll go." "Adriana, you are very beautiful, you really are." Adriana looked at her dad as if he were a traitor. When the door closed, she said disappointedly, "Dad, why didn't you invite her to stay? We were going to the cafe with you." "Let Kathy come with us." Michael frowned at Adriana. Kathy's own business, the girl pouted. "They're not for long." It was such an event after all. As they walked to school, as the first bell rang, Michael kept thinking about Kathy. He really should have invited her to the cafe like a savage. Her image in the bright blue dress was still in front of his eyes. Michael resolutely pulled out his phone and texted Kathy. "We'd love it if you'd come to the cafe with us after the line." And the reply came just a minute later. "I'm not far from the school. I'll be right over." "Thank you." Adriana didn't even look at him. Only ran up for a moment when they were to be led into the classroom. "Dad, I'll be right back. The teacher said we'll have class and then you and I will go to the cafe." Michael smiled. "Of course, I'll wait for you here." "Don't worry." Adriana ran off. Michael watched as they walked to the school, holding hands, and turned around. Was there even a bench? Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed that there was some excitement among the older kids. I listened. One of the girls was excitedly saying, "Let's go quickly." I saw her get hit by a car. I don't think anyone had gotten there yet. The kids were in a hurry, and Michael didn't know why he decided to see what they were talking about. Young people are strange now, and sometimes it's better to be careful. They rounded the corner, and the children gasped. Michael looked over their heads and froze. There was a car on the road, and a girl in a blue dress was lying beside it. A second later, an ambulance came, and the gawkers parted to let the doctors through. Michael rushed over there. The only thought in his head was that it was all my fault. I invited her. That's why she was rushing over. He ran up just as Kathy was being put on the stretcher. Kathy. She opened her eyes, smiled weakly. "Michael, I'm sorry I can't keep you and Adriana company." Kathy closed her eyes, and Michael grabbed the sleeve of one of the doctors. "Tell me, what hospital are you taking her to?" "Which hospital?" The doctor gave the young man a stern look. "Don't ask me. We have one hospital that accepts such patients on Green Street." Michael stood aside, and Kathy was carried past. He looked at his watch. "Oh, Adriana's coming out now." Michael rushed with all his might into the schoolyard. The daughter ran out happy, glowing pap. The teacher praised me because I answered all of her questions without mistakes. "You did well. I'm proud of you." "What's up?" "Let's go to the cafe to celebrate the big day." Adriana nodded, and they, holding hands, walked from the schoolyard to the cafe. Her daughter sighed. "How nice it would be to have Kathy with us. She smiles so beautifully. And the girls were even looking at my hair. They said it was very pretty." Michael coughed. "Adriana, listen to me. I invited Kathy to come with us to the cafe." Adriana clapped his hands together. She agreed. "She'll come." Michael sighed again. "I didn't mean to upset you." Kathy was on her way to us, but anyway, she was hit by a car. Adriana turned pale in the car. "What are you saying, that Kathy is where Mom is now?" Michael looked at his daughter confusedly. Tears were streaming down the child's cheeks. "No, Kathy's been taken to the hospital. She will stay there for a while, and then she will be discharged." Adriana stood up. "Dad, I don't want to go to the cafe anymore. I want to see Kathy. I want to know for sure that nothing bad has happened to her." Michael got up too. In fact, he wanted to know how Kathy was doing too. Half an hour later, they were already entering the lobby. "Excuse me," a girl was admitted after the accident. "Kathy." Michael suddenly realized he couldn't remember her last name. But the nurse smiled. "Yes, she is already in the room, but she got off very well." Michael cautiously asked if we could see her, recognize her. "Maybe we need something." The nurse frowned. "Who are you?" Michael was completely confused. Adriana stepped forward. "We're not strangers to her. She's a friend of ours." The nurse laughed. "Well, if she's your friend, I'll walk you out." Kathy was so pale that she almost blended in with the white sheets. She turned her head and looked at the guests in surprise. "Kathy, it's us." Michael didn't know what to say. He was not himself. Adriana took matters into her own hands. She walked over to the bed, took his hand. It hurt a lot. Kathy smiled tolerantly. "We came to see what you need to bring and what you like." Michael nodded his head yes. Right now, he had absolutely no idea when his daughter had learned all this. and how she even knew what to say. Kathy was embarrassed to say no to everything. But Michael and Adriana came every day. Adriana had dug out a book of healthy recipes, and now they made steamed patties together, even baked pies. Michael tried not to think about anything, because he felt he was getting too attached to Kathy. But Adriana was all about her, and I'm being discharged tomorrow. You won't have to spend so much time with me. Michael looked at Kathy's leg and the crutches that stood by the bed. What about you? Well, not me. First, not me last. I'll manage somehow. Adriana looked reproachfully at her father, and Michael said to Kathy as if in a dream, I don't think you'll be very comfortable at home alone. We have a big enough apartment. Maybe you could stay with us until the cast comes off. We're responsible for what happened to you, too. Kathy looked at him fearfully, but didn't have time to say a word, because Adriana hung on to her. Yes, go for it. We'll have so much fun. We'll watch movies together in the evenings, cook dinner together. Daddy can't do anything without a book. Kathy looked at Michael with a confused look, and he looked at her. It was still unclear which of them had the more confused look. The next day, Kathy entered their apartment with difficulty. Adriana immediately placed a chair next to her. Here, rest, and then we'll show you everything. The little girl ran off to her room. Kathy looked at Michael. I think we're doing something stupid. I could do it at home. Michael suddenly felt at ease. Only now he realized that Adriana was much wiser than he was. No, we're not letting you go anywhere. At least not until we get you back on your feet. There was a special kind of coziness to their home now. Adriana and Kathy were always cooking, whispering about something. Michael was even a little jealous of his daughter, but immediately pulled himself away. Adriana was very much in need of female attention. And that, of course, is a fact. A month later, Kathy's cast was removed and she went home. Thank you so much. I'm very embarrassed that I've taken advantage of your hospitality for so long. Adriana looked expectantly at her father, but Michael remained silent. All I could think of was that he was 10 years older than Kathy, that he had a child, and he was not wealthy enough to be interested in such a young and beautiful girl. Kathy yawned. Adriana sighed. Dad, I love you very much, but you've done everything wrong now. Adriana, but the girl went to her room and closed the door behind her. All night he did not sleep, going over pictures of his wife, thinking, smoking out the window. Finally peeked into his daughter's room. She was asleep. Went out to the landing, called a neighbor. When she opened the door behind him, frightened, he said, Please, look after Adriana. I have to go out very urgently. It's a matter of life and death. Well, run along. I hope that matter of life and death doesn't send you away. But Michael was out of earshot. He was running up the stairs, wondering where he'd buy flowers at night. Kathy, I have to listen to him. He didn't really know what he was going to say, but it was important. Dad, look how handsome he is, even though he's a boy. It's weird. I thought boys couldn't be handsome at all. Michael watched with a smile as Adriana looked at the little brother who had just come home from the hospital. Kathy gently took her son in her arms and called out to Adriana. Would you like to hold him? Adriana gasped. Of course I can. He's your brother. Just hold him tight. Adriana took the baby and suddenly tears rolled down her cheeks. You know, it's a good thing you got hit by a car. You got better. We're together now. We're a real family. Kathy cuddled her daughter and her brother, and Michael gave them all a big hug.